All right, so I want to talk about The Rock on SmackDown turning heel officially and where I think it's going and what's happened. First of all, there's a lot of conspiracies out there about this. I don't believe this is what they had planned 2 weeks ago. I think the story was what the story was, and that was literally that Cody was supposed to headline against Roman again this year, like we talked about. But then The Rock came in, and as part of his deal joining the board, that he would instead headline with Roman. And last minute, they went in and made the change. Now, if someday it comes out this was all one big conspiracy to make Cody a bigger babyface, I would not be surprised. However, with The Rock getting older, every year that goes by, it's harder and harder for him to come back. Now, I will say, and we're going to talk more about this later in the video, I will say that I do think we're going to get The Rock and Roman Reigns, not at WrestleMania this year, but I think we are going to get it, and I'll talk more about that later. But The Rock, first Roman comes out, and I think it was like 9:34, so they had like 25 minutes left in the show. Roman's entrance is long. Dwayne likes to stand on the ramp and point at his forearm and with the chills and everything. So Roman says that The Rock is in the bloodline. He straight up says it, even though because he is a Samoan, he always was technically in the actual bloodline. Maybe not the stable, maybe not the heel wrestling stable, but he was in. So Rock comes out, and Rock is dressed noticeably different. He's wearing one of those expensive tailored shirts that he used to wear back in 1998, 1999, and he's got a different kind of swagger. This is what I'm going to be calling the return of Hollywood Rock, except it's different than the 2003 version of Hollywood Rock. This version of The Rock is like a hybrid of the 1999 version of Rock, like the corporation version of Rock, right, from late 98 through 99 through Backlash. That version of Rock mixed with Hollywood Rock. That's what we're getting here, because the difference between 2003 Rock and 2024 Rock is that now, when 2003 Rock first was the thing, The Rock was just getting his feet wet in Hollywood. He had already done a few movies, but now he's been in Hollywood now for a couple decades, and even though his recent stuff has not been successful, the guy has been a part of a number of big money films. So he is Hollywood Rock now for real. However, I really like that this is probably the best pivot job WWE's done in a long time, maybe ever. I would put this pivot above even what happened with Daniel Bryan in 2014, when the fans were rallying behind him there. And the reason as to why I suspected that is because, or why I feel that way, is because The Rock has genuine power now. Like back then, it was still Vince in charge. It was before all this craziness happened. Here, The Rock has power above Triple H because The Rock is on the board and Triple H is not. And The Rock, knowing he was on the board, knowing that he has power over Triple H, could have vetoed the match, but instead listened to the audience and, in a weird way, became the actual people's champion and said, okay, this is time for Cody. So instead, what they're going to do is they're going to have The Rock and Roman Reigns together against Cody and Seth WrestleMania Night 1. And then WrestleMania Night 2, we'll get Cody versus Roman one-on-one. And we'll get Seth defending his title against the winner of the Chamber. So that's the plan for WrestleMania now. I talked about that in the video I did recently. But it was so refreshing to see The Rock like actually having fun as a heel. He went out there, he talked trash about the crowd, he talked about Salt Lake City and their 70 wives, because Salt Lake City has a very, very big, Utah has the biggest Mormon population in the world. And at one time, I've heard not so much anymore, but at one time polygamy was very normal in the Mormon religion. So he's kind of making fun of him on that. He kind of made fun of the people on Twitter complaining about Cody. Kind of like what he said on the Pat McAfee show, just done for a live crowd. He talked about his star power and how him and Roman are still like they're still like the bigger quote unquote match. And again, for the mainstream, they definitely are, but the kind of wrestling fans that kind of dominate the shows now don't care about that as much as they used to. Cody's story and what they've been building for the past 3 years is more important to wrestling fans than The Rock coming back. Plus, like I said in previous videos, even if he didn't intend for it to be this way, The Rock coming back and taking that main event from Cody was being perceived as being what he did with Punk years ago, except worse. And it was perceived as being a selfish move by The Rock. So instead of Rock trying to convince people that it wasn't a selfish move, he just leans all the way into being a heel, and I loved it. I mean, I was having the time of my life watching this man bury that crowd, and it really felt like The Rock from 1999 and The Rock from 2003 were resurrected in this older Rock. Now, again, that brings me to what I think is going to happen. A lot of folks have pointed out that this whole thing could be a setup, and that it could all be done for The Rock to turn on Roman at some point, maybe even at WrestleMania. And they think that Rock is actually on Cody's side secretly, and that they're kind of pulling what Austin and Mike Tyson did on DX in 1998, which is make everybody think he's on Roman's side, but he's actually on Cody's side. Now, if that's going to happen, if that is the case, then that would mean that Rock and Cody in the tag match shouldn't even have a single move on each other, because if they've got all this planned out, why would they attack each other? I hate when wrestling has like a quote unquote secret like twist, and the twist makes no sense. I've always hated that about wrestling when they do that. And there have been several turns and swerves that have not made any sense, because you got two guys that are in the ring beating each other up. I've literally seen this in the dying days of WCW, and then by the end of the match they turn, and that makes no sense. If you're going to do the thing where every time The Rock's in the ring, Seth is in the ring, and then every time that Cody tags in, Rock tags in Roman, then it would make a little bit more sense, because Rock doesn't really care that much about Seth because he's already got his own title, and it's his own thing. It's not about his cousin or Cody. But I think instead what they're probably going to do is figure out a way to have The Rock and Roman at odds. Now, The Rock as a star just outshadows a lot of people. And on the mic, although Roman and Paul Heyman are great, and in fact, I think Paul Heyman is the best mic guy they got, The Rock, when he's in full heel mode, like what he was tonight, or not tonight, on Smackdown, not tonight, I'm recording this Sunday morning, that's different. That's a different beast. That's a different beast altogether. So people were pointing out the fact that at the end of the show when The Rock, well, first of all, the way the camera was framed, Roman and the Bloodline were on one side of the ring and The Rock was on the other. So it didn't really show unity. And that's sort of things that a lot of filmmakers would do in their movies to kind of give you a clue of things to come. You kind of have the frame set up a certain way so that you are subconsciously being told, like, this isn't really as close of a friendship as you would think, right? Well, they did that here. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh, you're thinking too deeply into it, maybe I am, but this is a new WWE, bro. And with Triple H and the new director, I forget the guy's name, the guy they just hired, this type of stuff is no accident. Like, I don't think they're doing this on accident. They're purposely gearing us up to retrace our steps and remember where this whole thing started. So, yes, I do think that. And then when one more thing, when The Rock pointed up, it was more like an L because he had like his thumb sticking out. It wasn't quite the same as putting your finger up. So that's another thing people are saying. Oh, is he saying that he's going to turn on the Bloodline because they're losers, or Roman's a loser, or whatever? It could be. It could be. I don't think it's an accident, though. I think that WrestleMania 41, I think they've already got the idea in their heads that WrestleMania 41 is going to be The Rock and Roman Reigns. I don't see that being a SummerSlam. Maybe Saudi, maybe if they want to do something special. I don't see it being a SummerSlam match. I don't see it being a match at MSG or some TV show. No, The Rock's going to want to break a record. And for WrestleMania 41, they're going to have the opportunity to do that because, right now, there's obviously no matches planned for 41. But if they shoot the angle at WrestleMania, or if they shoot it on the Smackdown after WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania, whatever, however they want to do it, if they start the angle there, like what they did for Cena versus Rock once in a lifetime, which wound up being twice in a lifetime in Miami back in 2012, they could get early ticket sales for that show to just explode. That might be the goal. Now, will it actually happen? I couldn't even tell you. But I think that might be the plan to kind of get everybody geared up to eventually go to Roman and The Rock next year. And they could even do a story where Roman's trying to get the title back from Cody and he fails. And ultimately, The Rock and Roman ends up being a match for the title of Tribal Chief. Not for the world title or for the Undisputed Universal title, but for the title of Tribal Chief of the Samoan Dynasty. It's pretty obvious, man. Many of y'all are pretty smart. Y'all kind of picked up on the clues they're giving us. Like, if Rock and Roman work as a team at WrestleMania, maybe they split up the next night, or maybe Rock accidentally cost Roman, or there's a gazillion different ways they could do it. A gazillion different ways, but I think they still have that match in their back pocket, and that could actually be Rock's retirement match. WrestleMania 40, since the tag match, it won't be all The Rock. It'll be The Rock working with Roman and two other guys that are younger than him and are active members of the roster who are also working the next night. Rock doesn't have to go all out because, he's got three other guys to work off of him. But for 41, then that gives Rock a year to kind of really get prepared. And yes, he will be a year older, but it'll give him more time to get his body back into ring shape. And they could squeeze a lot of stuff out of this, man. They could do The Rock. They could have The Rock come out every few months and continue the feud. There's a lot of things they could do. Again, there's a gazillion different possibilities. I'm not here to get rid of any of them. Like, I'm not here to shoot down any of them, except for any of the ones that don't say that we're going to see Roman and Rock at Mania next year, because, or maybe Saudi, only because the basically, bro, the seeds have been planted. And in this era, like of Triple H's era, the seeds being planted aren't accidents. Remember what happened with Bray Wyatt's return? Remember that? Remember what's been going on with Cody and kind of how they've been building him up? Like, seeds being planted. Remember the Bailey thing? How that was a slow turn? Like, these things in the Triple H era are no accident. And unlike Vince, he's not going to just change his mind near the end. So, I unless an injury happens, that's different. But I think that this is all being done on purpose. What do you think? Do you disagree? Let me know. I'm sure most of you agree, but if you disagree, let me know. And let me know whatever you think about this down below.